way.
Now,
So, like,
but see,
not
the
just
problem
you
is
missed.
that in D&D you can have that, but Knights of the Old Republic has that mechanic, and it just says miss. And the problem is you can miss a freaking door. You can miss a door. It's like, oh, I don't have the lock-picking skills, so let me just break it down with a lightsaber, and it just goes, miss. You're like,
Miss.
what do you mean I missed the door? It's
I missed the
stationary.
freaking door. Yeah.
Intro of darkness, then redness, then whiteness.
Oh, wait, that's a...
I haven't watched
Welcome.
Tobuscus
Wow.
in 3 billion
Welcome
years.
Tonight's the D-pad. Shout out Tobuscus and anyone who gets that reference.
Wow, that is a throwback. Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
sir. I just checked his YouTube channel. Actually, he's still uploading,
He
which
does
is
still upload.
crazy. I didn't
that is-
know that he still did that, but
That is not an intro that I remembered existed until you did that, and then suddenly the memories came flooding back into my mind. Oh, the Tobuscus intro. What a classic. Welcome back, everybody. We're on episode 11. I think we've only had one season before this that has reached 11 episodes. I think season 2 made it to 11, and that was as far as it made it. So we're entering new territory in terms of episode count, and we still have like 2 or 3 weeks left. So we're uncharted territory. We once again have a different host configuration as Court is doing things with family still for Easter. Which it's Easter, so I cannot fault him this time for not being around. Last week I can fault him. This week I cannot, because it is the holidays. So, Court, if you're watching this, we do not fault you for being gone. However, if you are your brother-in-law faults you for not being here. I don't. I understand, Court. We've got for the first time in a little bit, we've actually got a full episode with news and filler, so this should be exciting. Let's start. Let's start with Minecraft from. We'll do Lillian's Minecraft bit because I think it's less involved than Ben's Minecraft bit.
It's very uninvolved. Basically, I think it was yesterday for us, not yesterday for you guys. PlayStation Game Size, which is an account that often like reveals things happening on PlayStation by looking at the Sony Game Store. They revealed that there is a native version of Minecraft coming to PlayStation 5. So you don't have to play it backwards compatible the PS4 version. It's a much nicer looking version. That's about it.
Hooray!
Nicer, runs better, I assume.
Yeah.
Yes, from one Minecraft to another. So I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but it was kind of only when it was just announced, and not a whole lot more had come back about it. But the Minecraft mace, I had already mentioned how busted it was, but now it's got enchantments, and the enchantments are quite ridiculous.
I think this has got to be one of the most busted things that Mojang has looked up in the last, like, freaking years. Because, like, I wish the Warden was more busted than it currently is. Like, that's what should have been busted, but no, we have this. So, Mace is being given 3 special, like, individual, unique enchantments. It already has its own, like, it can go along with Smite, Mending, durability, all that kind of stuff. But one of the first unique Mace enchantment is Density, which basically it's kind of the same as Sharpness, where it does more damage, but it also scales with your fall distance. And so the farther you fall, the even more damage you do. And then there's Breach, which allows the mace to penetrate armor. And so
that makes it busted for PvP.
This is going to make PvP a nightmare because you just get to negate any kind of armor.
Yep.
And then, like, what my personal, like, really mind-boggling one is the enchantment called Windburst, which when you land, and whenever you land a smash attack, which is basically the downward hit, it launches you up into the air with a little like wind knock-up thing, and then you get to it. That it doesn't have any sort of cooldown. It's just you hit it.
You can just
It allows you to just kind of bounce up and
Yep.
down. Right? The thing is about that enchantment is that like I've seen things of people with 0 armor
Yep.
taking on the wither. Because all they do is
They
they
just-
just hit the wither with the mace,
They
and it
just
knocks
bounce
them
on
up.
its head.
And the wither
Oh my
flies up to try and
God.
reach them, and they just hit him again, and it just bounce, 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 bounce. And the wither never hits them. These guys just full on kill the wither, and then just fall from 300 blocks in the air and water bucket or whatever, and just
It
it's
is.
that simple.
It's because I've seen that, and then I've seen people doing like tech with like armor stands where they use the armor stand to give them a boost when they're running to like kill something, so it throws them up in the air, and then they just one shot most normal mobs because it gets them like 1 or 2. Because you're like they like hit something to get them up once, and then put the armor stand on another block, and then hit it, so they basically get the double boost, and then comes it's. It's silly.
That is hilarious.
Really?
That sounds like so much fun, though.
Oh yeah.
Like, but PvP is going to be a nightmare now.
Oh yeah.
It's like I've seen things of people flying up in the air by like having knockback, and they just kind of hit each other until they just
Yeah.
fly. Like imagine this now, where it just takes 1 hit and you're flying 10 blocks each time.
Yeah, it's something, let me tell you. But I mean, because what I saw was a release. Like, it was initially just like, oh, this is kind of interesting. The further you fall, the more damage you do. And then it was like, oh, but have you seen the enchantments? I'm like, I don't think I want to see the enchantment. Mojang, you have created a power scaling problem now.
Power creep in Minecraft.
Power
I never
creep
thought-
in Minecraft. Yeah, I never thought I would see the day where this was an issue, but here we are in 2024, and it is now an issue. But alas, I digress. So yeah, that's one update to a very beloved game. But it gets crazier with other games with updates. Ben, I've heard that the Stardew Valley update is kind of bonkers in some ways.
So yeah, Stardew Valley had its first update in what I think was like 7 years, maybe. I don't remember. It was this big, long time update that has been long time coming, and so this update introduced a lot of new things, and I'm just going to kind of give a little brief overview of it. There is a new farm layout, which kind of like along the same lines of like, you know, that you have your beach farm, your forest farm, mountain farm. Like there's this new one, which is the Meadowlands farm. And you start it with a little coop, so you get to start with chickens. So
I'm looking at this
It's a nice
change
progression.
log. This thing is freaking massive.
So Stardew Valley kind of added loot boxes, but it's not really loot boxes. It's just something called mystery boxes,
Okay.
which you get. It's basically loot boxes, but you buy it from this one random guy, and it can have anything from like artifacts
Mhm.
to fishing and mining stuff. NPC sprites got an upgrade with like some of them, you know, some really good quality of life, like bit upgrades. A lot of homes got renovations, making them look fuller and just overall more like set in the way that it's like this is a believable house.
This is a house that I believe is a house.
Unlike Pokemon houses.
The boxes.
You can also have multiple pets now, and so
Aw.
that's before you were just limited to your one dog or your one cat. But as long as you
12 cats.
maximize
Become a
hearts,
hoarder.
as long as you maximize hearts with one of your pets, you can get another one.
Wow. That's great.
There's so much.
You also have 2 new festivals: the Desert Festival, and there is the Squid Fest.
Squid Fest. Squid Fest.
which you fish in the ocean to catch squid and come in for prizes.
Wow.
That's crazy.
There is a new prize machine, like kind of shop area. They kind of renovated the XP system because it was a little weird the way it worked. So I appreciate this. That after you have 5 skills at level 10, you'll obtain a new XP bar, which this is called the mastery system. And then you upgrade that 1 bar, and then you can really specialize in certain things, which you can find. There's a hidden door in like the Cinder Snap Forest that you can find that'll allow you to like specialize in new skills.
Very cool.
They also added a lot of new outfits, and it was like stuff like winter outfits. Before, male farmers couldn't choose their outfit for their wedding day. Now they can.
Hey, more power to you.
That's great.
I guess.
And then they also added some new crops. You have 4 new crops: the carrot, the summer squash, the broccoli, and the powder melon.
Carrot wasn't already in Stardew Valley?
Carrot was not in
Wow.
Stardew Valley yet.
That's ridiculous.
That's
That
wild.
crazy.
Okay. I'm seeing that they added basically an IKEA's worth of new furniture as well.
Mm-hmm.
280 new pieces of furniture. That's
so fun.
insane.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the farmhouse can now have a dining room, cubby attic, an expanded corner room. Yeah, and 280 new furniture pieces, including the Wizard's Furniture catalog. So
they went all out with this update. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very lengthy like patch notes page of just like, okay, more power to you, Stardew Valley. Didn't it?
I mean, it made Stardew Valley. I think I saw something. Stardew Valley hit its highest player count in the first time in like 6 years.
Yeah,
like that.
I thought it broke its record, didn't it? Its concurrent player count record.
Wow.
So Stardew Valley was doing numbers this last week thanks to this update.
Valley player count.
It's going crazy. I think they also, because they made like various balance changes, and then I think they even made changes to like mod creation as well. So like they did a lot with how they handled it. I've never played Stardew Valley, so I cannot say how meaningful this is. I have no idea. I've got no reference. But it looks large, and I would assume it's impactful. But I'll take Ben's word for it because I don't know. I am unaware.
Thank you for trusting me.
Yeah, I trust you, Ben, on the Stardew Valley changes. So yeah, big update there. And then I'll take it as well. Overwatch had so season 10 is starting in a couple weeks, and as a part of Overwatch's update cycle, every other season we get a new hero. And they took a page out of what they did with Mauga in Season 8, the last new hero, where they, starting, well, I guess, as of filming, well, no, not as, just this past Thursday on the 28th through this weekend. So I guess by the time this episode comes out, it will be finished. But for this weekend, they have allowed the new hero Venture to be playable in the game. And let me just say, they kind of cooked with this one. They kind of cooked with this one. Venture is crazy fun to play. It took me a second to warm up to him. Their play style is kind of interesting. They don't have a lot of range with their primary fire, but they essentially took the ability combo style from DPS Doomfist from Overwatch 1 and kind of like recreated that like ability cycling and kind of combo ability and gave it to Venture. So Venture is an archaeologist, so their primary weapon is a drill that they like shoot.
An excavator.
It's an excavator drill that they shoot like a short range projectile. The one issue I have with Venture is that the projectile like range on their primary fire is really bad. I think it's like
really short.
It's like 10 meters, so it doesn't go very far. but like you're able to burrow under the ground like Splatoon style and like go up on
What's that one guy, the miner from
the Underminer. Yeah.
the miner from Clash Royale?
I don't know. I have seen Venture compared to like the the rock guy from Atlantis, and like I've seen them. I don't know. So like Venture is a very fun hero. They did a very good job.
A lot of mobility.
A lot of mobility, because you're able to burrow under the ground on a cooldown, on a timer, and then you're able to like charge up your like bursting above the ground, which will do damage when you like charge up. The enemy can see you when you're like burrowing and when you're like about to pop out of the ground, but you're able to charge that up and do more damage. And then you have like a dash with your drill that will do damage, but you can also dash under the ground. And if you dash under the ground, it has a lower cooldown. And there's like weird tech that you can already do where if you like dash at the right time and then pop out of map geometry, you'll like go super fast, and then when you go back in the ground, it'll only be there's some crazy tech. And then like their melee just melees with the drill, so it's like a longer animation, but it does more damage. And then the ultimate is basically Reinhardt's Earth Shatter without the stun, and you can like two-shot like normal like 250. It's kind of crazy.
The drill does more damage than melee as like the longer you hold it, right?
No. So it's just a one-time. You just press it and it does the melee. It's just a longer animation, but you're able to like, I think if you hit a primary fire, do a drill dash in melee, you just like one-shot combo somebody. There's a lot of combo, but it's all about combos and off angling. And it like takes a second. It took a second for me to get used to them, because I was like, I don't like how I feel like I'm useless at the start of a team fight because I can't. There's no range. But then once I like unlocked the off angling potential of Venture, it became very like across the board consensus that this hero is a lot of fun, and it brings the Team 4's like Overwatch 2 fun hero count up to like all but one. Like the only hero that is not that doesn't feel fun to play is Mauga, because Mauga's just a nightmare.
Stand and shoot.
Mauga is just not a terribly designed hero. Just from a play style, is not a lot of fun. And like people will argue that Lifeweaver isn't very fun, but Lifeweaver's fun to play. He's just not a good hero, so there's a difference, you know? But at the very least, if nothing else, the Overwatch 2 dev team knows how to make new heroes a lot of fun to play, and Venture is no different. So they've been out to play for free this weekend. Oh, I guess play to test, and then they'll get adjusted for when Season 10 comes out, and then they will be free for everybody. It'll be the first time that a new hero isn't in the battle pass. So I'm excited. This is a new hero, and we'll get, additionally with Season 10, as far as I'm aware, we'll get a preview of the new game mode with a reworked Hanamura. It's basically just like, 7 CP from TF2, but an Overwatch with 5 points instead. So anyone who knows that game mode, I don't. That's what it is. It's just TF2's multiple capture point game mode. And then we'll get a new push map. But the new hero, Venture, is a lot of fun. Their
ultimate seems wild to me.
It is it's an Earth Shatter, but it has like 4, I don't remember if it has 4 or 5 charges. And yeah,
I think it's 4.
If you hit another DPS hero twice, I think they just fall over. And the combo potential with it is insane. Because if you combo with like Orissa's ult that pulls everyone together like with a grav, they're just guaranteed they're just going to die. They're going to fall over. Even with EMP, it does a lot. I've been comboing. We've been messing with combos. Me and my buddies have. So there's a lot that you can do with Venture. We're excited to see kind of how the game develops around them. We don't know a lot of backstory. We just know that they're non-binary. They're an archaeologist, and they're Canadian, but they have Hispanic descent.
Canadian.
They're Mexican Canadian. Which was very interesting, because when they were like, yeah, they're Mexican Canadian, and I'm going like, Mexican Canadian, is that even like a common? Is that a well, no, in Canada, is that a common? That's not a very common like ethnic group in Canada, because like we looked at, it's like 3% of the population, and we were like, that's actually pretty cool. That it's not like French Canadian or like
0.042% of the country's population.
So like when they were like, yeah, they're Mexican Canadian, I was like, that is not a very like not something that I would have thought of to make, because Sojourn is Canadian, but Sojourn's just Canadian. I don't think Sojourn has any other like ethnic background, but yeah, the Venture has Mexican and Canadian descent, and I was like, that's pretty cool that it's like, you know, it's not a very thought of like group in Canada. So they're very interesting. I'm hoping that we get a short when they're fully released. I don't think we will, but if we do, that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, that's Venture. Good fun. Staying on the topic of Overwatch though, and not really. So this was kind of out of this was kind of out of nowhere last week. Maybe it was the week before. It was last week. NetEase and Marvel came out saying that they're making an Overwatch style like team shooter, and everyone was like, "You're doing what now?" So it's called Marvel Rivals, and it's like genuinely like this Marvel like essentially just imagine Paladins, but instead of Paladins it's Marvel characters. Like that's basically what it is.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of just Overwatch, but Marvel characters, if you ask me.
Well, no, the art style, like if you watch the trailer and watch the gameplay, it very much feels more like Paladins in its art style. And the problem is that it's made by NetEase, which makes everybody worried because NetEase doesn't have a great history when it comes to microtransactions in their games. All you have to do is look at Diablo Immortal to be like, guys, maybe we should be a little careful here. So like, all they've said is that it's six versus 6 with Marvel characters, and that like there's like hero synergies where it's like, for instance, if you play like Rocket and Groot, Rocket can get on Groot's back. Everyone's kind of like very cautiously interested in what this game will entail. I've signed up for the closed alpha in May. I would love to get an opportunity to play this to see what it's like, but it does very much feel like it will be more Paladins-esque because NetEase isn't known for its like
No way, Spider-Man has Reaper ult.
Yeah, that's been the joke. Is like everyone like Overwatch Twitter has kind of been like quote tweeting like the announcement trailer, like using Overwatch callouts, but with these Marvel characters. Where it's just like Spider-Man no swing, Spider-Man no swing. We can't push up with you. There's a Hulk in our back line. Like it's been pretty funny, but it just kind of came out of nowhere. Like it was kind of announced, and we're like, wait, your NetEase is making what now? So it's interesting. But what is also kind of weird is that like depending on what article you read, it like says that it's something else. So like most articles say that it's like NetEase is making an Overwatch-inspired 6 versus 6 hero shooter, but then some others will be like comparable to games like Valorant, and you're like, wait a minute, Overwatch and Valorant are two very different games.
It could be that the writer of the article just doesn't know what they're talking about.
I think that's the case. Either that or NetEase doesn't even know what they're talking about.
I mean, like, technically they're both like hero-based shooters. So you could like
but it ends. But the comparison ends there.
Yeah, but maybe that's as far as they went. So
because Valorant is a attack shooter like CS:GO. Overwatch is not a attack shooter.
And both Valorant and Overwatch have a new non-binary character.
Because
Valorant released Clove.
What's that? Clove?
Yeah,
that's
Clove,
right.
Yeah, Clove did just come out. They came out at about the same time. So yeah, that is all we know about this game, is that it's a 6 versus 6 team-based shooter with Marvel characters, and that there's a closed alpha in May. That is it. That is the extent of literally everyone's knowledge.
Wow.
And the art style looks more akin to that of Paladins than of Overwatch. And the movement mechanics remind me of Fortnite a little bit. Like the character like movements in general, like the character animations remind me of Fortnite's animation. So that kind of seems like it's going more for like overly cartoony rather than Overwatch's kind of like cartoon style, but that's where the cartoon ends.
Yeah.
So I worry about microtransactions in this game because it's NetEase, and NetEase is
microtransactions, and it's also
NetEase is not.
We love microtransactions.
We love also it's in association with Marvel, who have a great history
They
of
have a great
favoring
history.
quality over
Oh yeah.
revenue.
I have a feeling because it's like it's one thing to have microtransactions like things like Valorant and Overwatch have, where it's all cosmetic based. It's another thing to have a company like NetEase making a game where their microtransaction history goes way beyond just cosmetics. So I have no idea how this game is gonna go, but it did just kind of like come out of nowhere. We were not prepared for it. But speaking of microtransactions, Skylar, let's start with the actual like normal part of the major.
Yeah. I was gonna start with
the playoffs for the CS2 major are they're underway.
Yes, in fact, as we're recording, the first semifinal match has started. FaZe versus Vitality. So if I'm ever zoning out, I'm probably
He's got the game up.
glancing over there. FaZe is currently up 8-3, so that's good. My pick'ems are already in shambles, so I don't really care who wins.
As they always are.
Yeah, so biggest story result-wise from quarterfinals is that FaZe took down Team Spirit, who for a lot of people were the tournament favorites because of Donk, the up-and-coming, super hyped 17-year-old Russian kid who posted an insanely...
Donk. What
Yeah,
a name.
imagine getting killed by Donk. There's like it's popular. It like after Katowice when he started destroying everybody just said, "Oh, I got donked." Just means you got destroyed by Donk. So
That's awesome.
yeah, but like aside from having a funny name, this guy is actually like insane. Like after Katowice, the last big tournament that was just had, he posted I think he tied Nico for the highest rating ever posted during a single tournament at like 1.73 or something, which probably means nothing to most of you, but it's really high. Like it's really high. Normally a good rating is like 1.2 or 1.3 is like really good. And 1.7 is just like off the charts. So people were like super hyped for Spirit. They won Katowice. They were the favorites coming in, but FaZe Down took them down, which was huge. Not that FaZe Clan is incapable of taking them down. Like FaZe Clan's like the second best team in the world next to Spirit. So like, you know, it's totally like acceptable. I should say it wasn't like necessarily
acceptable.
It wasn't like if you looked at like the matchup, you're like, oh, FaZe could win.
Oh, it wasn't one of those write-offs where it's like FaZe.
Yeah,
shouldn't. Okay,
like people expected Spirit to win, but FaZe Clan, like if they play at their best, are like just as good, if not better than Spirit. So, nevertheless, Spirit were the favorites. Now that they're out, like the major's kind of wide open to anybody. The remaining teams are Vitality, FaZe, Na'Vi, and G2, and I'd say they all have a pretty good chance of winning. Bar maybe Na'Vi. I think Na'Vi is a little bit weaker than the rest of the competition, but if they play like at their absolute peak, I think they could win. But
Ben's over here pulling for his team.
I think FaZe Clan are probably most likely to win.
Yeah. But it wasn't all fun and games, was it?
But that was actually not the biggest story for this believe it or not. So I've thought about how I kind of want to explain this. It's kind of a lot to unpack. So just context. So during the final quarterfinal match of Maus versus G2, as we were coming out of halftime in the second map, there was a disruption. I hesitate to call it a protest because of the nature of the incident.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So like as they were coming out of halftime, people from the crowd started storming the stage, like just running on the stage, getting on the stage. And like a lot of videos have since been posted on Twitter, but like in the moment, it's like we were about to come out into halftime and then the casters were like, oh, hang on a minute. Like, and then we just kind of went to break. So like if you were watching online, it was kind of unclear what was going on. And then I was checking Twitter and stuff. So it turns out, context, G2's team is sponsored by CS Skins gambling website called CS:GO Roll, who are currently in like a feud with this other gambling website who I shall not name because they do not deserve the publicity. But if you want, you can look it up. There's lots of good articles on like HLTV and Dust2.us. But pretty much this other gambling site that does not like G2's affiliation with CSGO Roll paid people to storm the stage and disrupt in protest, if you want to call it that, of G2's affiliation with this website because they consider CSGO Roll like a scam website. Like the owner of this gambling site responsible for the disruption posted online that they're like waging war against fraud, gambling websites, which is like in itself not necessarily a bad thing. Like that they want like they're concerned that like there's kids that are fans of G2, they're gonna like go to this website, get scammed, lose their money, stuff like that. So it is like somewhat noble in a sense, but they went about it totally the wrong way. Like they paid people to protest, which isn't even like that's not even like a protest at that point. Like literally some people have been comparing it to terrorism, like because they paid people to do it. But they like paid people to do it. They did it, and then they went online and took responsibility for it. They're like, "This was us."
Aside from the actual like bodily injury side of things, it follows a similar logic.
Yes. Yeah. I tried to find the tweet that I saw someone compare it, but I couldn't find it. But yeah, it's kind of unclear what they were trying to accomplish. If they were just trying to get attention. No one was hurt, thank goodness. But
that is good.
I read that the owner that was responsible had like said that he wanted to put Monacy in handcuffs, which is one of the G2 players, and I don't like. It's hard to tell how much that is like a joke or not. But like, it's very worrisome. Like, you can look at this incident from like a lot of different angles. Like, first of all, how are these people even like let on stage? What the heck was security doing? Like now that this has happened, G2's already announced that like they're going to be more careful with fan interactions over this weekend as the tournament plays out, which sucks for fans. PGL announced that they're increasing security because after this happened, I read last night that they have threatened more disruptions.
Oh my.
They're saying we're not going to stop. We're going to keep disrupting.
If G2 gets to the finals, there will be.
And Oh yeah. And G2 plays later today, like in a couple hours. So it will.
There could be more.
Yeah, as we're recording, by the time it comes out, it'll probably have happened or not. But I'm interested. Like I'm gonna watch after we're done, and I'm interested to see if anything's gonna happen. Hopefully not with the increase in security, and now that they're aware of this issue. But I actually saw a video that apparently someone had gotten on stage during the Vitality versus Cloud9 match as well, but it like wasn't a big deal and got taken off immediately. But it's just kind of crazy. People are worried that this is going to have like a greater ripple effect on like further tournaments, that like fans aren't going to be allowed to get as close to the stage, or it's just like going to be not as accessible.
It's very funny to be listening to it and hearing just these very thick Norwegian accents. Like I don't know how you can boo with an accent, but they do it.
What?
But I mean, the other thing is like, as I was watching and like discovered what the reason for the disruption was, like I was super like upset and I was like getting like emotional. Like, how do these people have the nerve to do this like during a celebration of Counter-Strike? Like they're supposed to love this game, which is why they're so passionate about the skins and stuff, yet they would do this during a tournament. And like I can't even imagine the effect that this had on like talent that was working the game. Like after the game ended, like Shox, who's like, hopefully you guys know who Shox is, she was hosting and she was like visibly very emotional about what had happened. And I can't even imagine what it was like for the players, because like they're in this. So context of like the game is that G2 was up a map against Mouse. Mouse are technically the favorites, so they were like in map 2 playing for their lives. They had gone down like 0-6, but like going into halftime they were on a bit of a comeback. They had brought it back like 5-7, and then like as they're about to start the match, like as Mouse has been gaining this momentum, it gets disrupted. Everybody has to leave the stage. they maybe feel threatened, who knows, and then they have to come back, keep playing, and then Mao's just like get destroyed. So like it's hard to blame it entirely on like whatever mental effect the disruption had, and obviously like G2 had to deal with it too. But it's like, how bad does that feel if you're if you're Mouse and you were like on the verge of this comeback and you get disrupted, and then you just like once you come back you get destroyed and you're eliminated. Like some of the players were posting online, they're like, GG, we lost 0-2, emotions are high. That's it.
Yeah.
So like I just, as a fan, I feel terrible like for what happened to the players, and I hope it doesn't happen again. But I don't know what to say. It's hard for me to like gather my thoughts even still about like what happened, because there's just like so much. Oh my gosh, Kenny S is in the crowd. Sorry. Sorry, I just saw it pop up on my screen. Kenny S is like the best opera of all time. He's a legend.
Yeah, he was on G2 for a while.
He was. Yes. Yeah, there's just there's a lot. Like some people said that like even the trophy broke like during the incident.
From the videos, it looks like the trophy fell on top of people. It didn't look like it hit the ground. So
yeah,
I watched it.
As I watched today, they had a trophy. Maybe it's not the same one. It kind of like I wasn't a big fan of the trophy to begin with, so like it kind of just looks like they 3D printed it and that it was like super cheap, which is probably why it broke, or not. Who knows?
Yeah.
But they have a trophy that looks the same today, so
that's funny.
But I wasn't necessarily mad at the trophy.
Glued it back together.
Because that thing looks like, honestly, side story, like Counter-Strike. I mean, not like story, but like side note, I guess. Like Counter-Strike trophies for the major have like sucked for like the last 5 majors. Like with the exception of Antwerp in 2022, like the Rio trophy sucked, the Paris trophy sucked, the Stockholm trophy sucked, the Copenhagen trophy sucks. Like, come on, guys, make a good trophy.
That's it. That's now 2 weeks in a row of something happening at an esports event. Because last week it was the hacking at Apex. We'll see what happens next week. We're just having issues. We're having issues in our esports events that isn't economically backed. It's not just the esports industry dying because of money. It's just people doing stupid things.
Yeah.
It's quite silly. All right, a final piece of news.
Google's Sigma. I mean, what?
Yeah, Sigma AI.
Yes. So Google has. This is a little bit of old news. It's a couple weeks old, but it has not been discussed yet. So Google has made. I'm gonna find what the acronym is for.
Scalable, instructable, multi-world agent.
Yes. So it is an AI that is being trained by Google to play video games. So here's a quote. It's learned about 600 basic skills like turning left and climbing a ladder. So that's fun. And basically Google is just trying to make this AI able to follow instructions within a game, play the game, ultimately with the intent of making an AI that can carry out like everyday tasks.
That could carry me in League.
Yes, Skylar, that one.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
That one.
Yeah, so
Can they be more human than my current supports?
Teach me how to climb ladders in Counter-Strike because the mechanics suck.
I need to see this game play something like the Stanley Parable. Or it's a game designed for you to not listen to the narrator, but I want an AI learn to not listen to the narrator.
That would be very funny. But yeah, so it's just, we've seen a lot of AI being used to create video games, but now we're seeing AI being used to play them.
All right, so essentially we need to have a game made by AI and then have an AI play the AI-made game.
Yes, and then it will be just
And then
AI
we can
entertaining
use
You an
itself.
AI review.
And then then we have an AI write a review video for it. And then we use the data gathered by the review and the AI that played it to then revise the game and make a new game. And it's just a never-ending cycle until the perfect game is made.
Game.
Yes.
It's Clash of Clans.
Are you sure it's not Raid Shadow?
Yeah, Raid Shadow Legends.
It would be very interesting to see the data of the AI learning to play games for something like Always Up, or one of those games where it is just like trial and error, or a game, even a game like Portal. Like seeing an AI learn how to play a puzzle game like Portal, I think could be very interesting in like learning how it learns to solve puzzles. Not just like pathing to climb up a ladder, but like puzzle mechanics in games.
Yeah. Yep, so that's something that Google is working on right now.
Let's have 2 AI play It Takes Two.
Yes, that would be so hilarious, because they'd have to figure out how to communicate.
They would have to figure out how to do it together.
Yeah.
That's quite silly. I mean, I feel like they should use this sort of data to use in like legitimate like AI bots in games. I feel like this could be really useful for games like Mario Kart or something, where there are like always CPU racers that like learn how you play and get better specifically against you.
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting.
You know how
for a more
infuriating
fun
that would be?
gaming experience.
You're like clearing
then
the 50.
you would learn that you have to adapt your play style.
You're over here like stomping them in the 50cc cup, but by the time you reach 200cc, they're just out for blood because they know exactly how you play.
I feel like that could create a really interesting gameplay, though.
Oh wait, no, at that point you just make a new CC cup. You just call it the adaptive CC. Where it's harder every time you play it. Or even in Smash. I think Smash... Wait. Okay, fighting games, I think, could be the best application of this.
That could be really, really fun. Because I feel like a lot of times, at least for me, in Mario Kart especially, but in other games as well, you get used to this one way that you win every time. And so to have an AI where, like... It learns based on how you are playing, that would be really fun.
Especially in a game like Smash, because that could help you yourself get better at the game without having to like train against other people, because you just have an AI that you play against that just knows how to beat you, and then you just learn how to beat it.
Yeah.
And it just gets better.
Yeah.
And then there's an AI uprising, and we all die because they've all learned how to play Smash Bros, Portal, Mario Kart, and we just can't beat them.
Yep.
And then AI just wins all of our esports tournaments because they're just better than we are. Except in first-person shooters, because then we can claim their aimbots, and then there we go, disqualified.
We claim moral supremacy.
Yeah, exactly. We claim the moral high ground in tactical shooters. So that is all for the news. We've done our news, and now we return to the land of filler segments where we have fun.
Yes.
We've talked at length in the past about our favorite games, our favorite music in games. What else? We've talked about the best consoles. What else have we done, Ben, over the course of 4 seasons? We've done story in games, cutscenes. We've done a lot, but what we haven't actually legitimately talked about is combat mechanics and styles in games. We've like talked about games being our favorites because of the combat, but we've never actually talked about combat styles generally. And that's what we want to do today. So we all have like 1 or 2 or 3. I actually didn't ask. With examples to back them up. I don't have visuals because I didn't want to know what everyone's was beforehand. I don't know how many everyone has. I've got 2. Does everyone have at least 2?
I have 0.5.
I think,
Well, Well,
I have
Lillian,
1.5.
Lillian, you get a pass for not having to, because I would not say that you frequent games where combat mechanics are really all that important.
Not really. Unless you count the combat in Mario Odyssey where he throws his hat.
See, I'm a big fan of hat throwing mechanics in games,
Oh, yeah.
personally. So I'm not sure. Ben, do you want to kick us off with your...
Sure. So, coming back to the best game of all time, I really enjoy the combat mechanic in Helldivers 2, where it's mostly a classic kind of shooter, but you have certain number of stratagems that you pick before, well, stuff like orbital strikes, like a airstrike, all this kind of like calling in new weapons, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And to do that, you play Dance Dance Revolution.
Wait,
Wow.
okay, I did not know that. Wait.
So what happens is you pull up your stratagem board and you have certain arrow key combinations you have to put in to call in that specific stratagem. It's like I know a lot of them just off the top of my head. To call in reinforcements, it's up, down, right, left, up.
What? Now, do you have to have those combos memorized? Or does
No,
it have
'cause
the arrows? Okay,
they're
it is
listed up there,
legitimately
but,
okay.
like, I can just name them because I've done them so many times. Eagle Cluster Bomb is like right, left, down, down, right.
Now, what calls in if you do up, up, down, down, left, right, left, right?
We've talked about the Konami code. They don't have one that's a Konami code yet.
What?
But,
Okay, I think that's a missed opportunity.
mhm.
That's crazy
Fine.
though.
It's really fun because like it takes, instead of just being like, okay, here's this button to call in an airstrike. It's like, no, you have to actually
Yeah.
stop and like remember, oh, I have to go boom, boom, up, down. Like 500K is right, up, down, down, down.
That's awesome.
That is actually a really cool mechanic.
I mean, that's like old school like cheat codes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like the button combos.
And so I really enjoy that combat
What?
system just because
That's
like
awesome.
it brings back that old style of
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, I have to pull it
Mhm.
in the secret combination to get
That's awesome.
Eagle 500K bomb.
Now, but what it sounds like is it's like do the arrows like come up to like the spot like DDR? Or is
Oh
it
no. It's not like you have to time it.
so it's
just
pseudo.
you have a combination.
I thought that I think it should have you time it where you're like I want to do this one and you tell it that you want to do that one and it has the arrows come up and you have to time it and if you don't get it you don't get that ordnance call.
Your ordinance is more powerful based off of how good your timing
Yeah,
was.
how
If you
good
got
the
all
timing
perfect-
is. If you get them all perfect, it's the most powerful of it. And if you
Mhm.
get them all like good, it's like it's just
Mediocre.
half. It's mediocre. I think that's a missed opportunity from Helldivers personally. That's
Uh-huh.
awesome though. I've never heard call back
That is
to
so
old.
cool.
That is really funny. All right, Lillian, hit us with your 0.5.
Okay, I was thinking about this. Literally the only like true, aside from like Smash Bros, which is a pretty basic combat, the only true like combat game that I've ever played is the Naruto 2.
Naruto 2,
Naruto
Electric
2.
Boogaloo.
Electric
Yeah, I
Boogaloo.
don't remember the full title because it's been a really long time.
That's it. That's the title. We told you.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks.
Naruto 2.
But I found it had just button combos for different attacks, which is a pretty typical, like it's pretty much like every other anime turned into a
They're
fighting
all the
game.
same. They genuinely
the
are.
same.
They're all the same.
But I found it very fun. It was my first introduction to a game where you have to have
Mhm.
like actual skill in the combat. You know, you have to do more than just button mashing. There are a few characters.
Yeah, there are a few that yeah.
you just button mash, and I remember my little sister did not realize that there was a way to combat that, because there is, but she would get so mad because I would pick Datara and just throw the little exploding clay things
No.
constantly, and she had no defense. So she banned me from playing that character. But I did find it very fun to learn the different button combos. And I like the way that it displays it differently on screen. Like the attacks are different. And you do kind of have to count how many times you press
That
the
is
buttons.
like
It's very, very basic, but I do think that it is, it is a mechanic.
It's fun.
That
it
is
is
fun.
one of the mechanics of all time.
It is
It
very
is one
funny
of those
though.
basic
Like
mechanics.
all of the Naruto and like Dragon Ball Z like fighting games, they're all the exact same. They just have different like coats of paint on them, but they are different from things like Street Fighter and Guilty Gear, because the Street Fighter and Guilty Gear and stuff, like those combat mechanics are like, I wouldn't say they're more refined than like the Naruto and Dragon Ball Z games, but they do feel different and they operate different. Because the Dragon Ball Z and Naruto games, it's like you do your button combos enough, and then at a certain point you've just like maxed out whatever like resource meter you have, and then you just turn into Nine Tails and just walk over kids. Like those anime games are like you just have to get far enough into the fight and then you just win. all tactical advantage goes out the window because you have just gone Super Saiyan and you just win the game.
Yep, pretty much.
But those they are fun because they're more. I would say that the anime fighting games are more party oriented than things like Street Fighter or Guilty Gear, because it's like if you're playing up against someone who knows what they're doing in Guilty Gear, you just lose. You just lose. But it's whereas like Naruto and Dragon Ball are more on the level of like Smash Bros, where it's like as long as you like somewhat know what you're doing, you kind of have a chance, because there's enough gimmicky's the wrong word, but I'm gonna use it here. There's enough gimmicky mechanics that you can get away with not completely knowing what you're doing.
Yep, definitely. And that's what I found fun about it, was I could actually compete against my brother in a combat game.
Yeah.
In a way that like I wasn't that good, but I felt like I was doing great.
I'm doing great, guys.
Yeah.
I have a chance. So yeah, that's a good one. Those are classic mechanics that do kind of transcend games themselves. I've got two, and I will mention the first one. I've mentioned it before, and it's the reason why I don't like playing Dark Souls games. I am a big fan of just the hack and slash combat mechanic. Like
just wants to hit buttons.
things like Nier Automata and like Sword Art Online Hollow Realization. I am just a fan of having my X button for light attacks and Y button for heavy attacks, and just throwing them together in any number of combinations and just wailing and dodging and just having fun. I don't like Dark Souls is like, all right, you gotta be methodical, walk up. I gotta be like, okay, I gotta use this kind of attack, and I gotta roll away and wait. I gotta parry. Like, I don't want
like a skill issue.
It is. It is.
Hard.
I just don't
just wants
like,
to have fun.
I just don't want to. I don't want to have to do. I don't want to have to think about it like that. I want to walk up and just like. That's why like Nier Automata is the best like execution of this in the games that I've played, because lots of other games like that, like the dodge mechanic, like when you're dodging, you do are kind of like having to sprint away and then you sprint back, and like because Hollow Realization does that, where you're able to kind of sprint around in circles, but you do kind of have to sprint in and out. Nier Automata's dodge is when you hit that dodge, time basically slows and you become invulnerable during that dodge. So you're able to basically just stay in place and just keep like fighting, because time just kind of stops for a second and you keep going. So Nier Automata's combat is so much fun, and Kyle will back me up on this, because I know that Kyle agrees with me on this. Nier Automata's combat is just the most fun.
While I found it very fun, like it seemed very fun when Hiram was first playing it, Hiram found it quite boring.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like if you
fan of the Dark Souls.
If you enjoy Souls like combat, where it is kind of methodical and like knowing when to parry, knowing that it's like you literally, if you try to attack right here, you're just gonna fall over. You're just gonna die. Like if you like that
Mhm.
methodical approach to combat, then yeah, Nier Automata is going to seem very boring. But for someone
Yeah.
who doesn't like having to like worry about parrying at the right time, Nier Automata's combat is so much fun because you're just there, just like
You just win.
because
Mhm.
because it doesn't like interrupt your like combo if you have like the right upgrade chips. You're able to just sit there and like spam X and Y while also having your finger just spam the dodge button. So you're just like repeatedly over here like spamming the dodge button while holding your pod fire while spamming X and Y and moving, and it just feels like you're doing your APM is like ludicrously high because you're just like dodge. It is the best execution of like this just real time, just like spam the X and Y buttons because the dodge mechanic just and the sound that it makes when you dodge is awesome because it like gives
Mhm.
you like isn't just like a light like whoosh like an air sound. No, it has like a technology like sound to it. So
Mhm.
if for anybody that does enjoy like this kind of spammy just hack and slash kind of combat, if you have not played Nier Automata, you will love it. Its combat is so much fun. Like the SAO games, like Hollow Realization has it as well, but Hollow Realization has it, but it doesn't feel Hollow Realization just feels like you're spamming a bunch of light attacks to like this boss that has millions of HP, and it feels you're kind of doing nothing. Nier Automata genuinely feels like when you're spamming these attacks, it actually means something. So that is the best example of just this hack and slash. I know that like Hyrule Warriors, like that one of the Zelda games, like one of the non-mainline
Mhm.
games has that. It's like a
Yeah.
favorite of MMOs, like Japanese MMOs, really
Mhm.
like the hack and slash style. But those hack and slash games are more, there's 100 enemies running at you, quick, hack and slash all of them with like this long
Yes.
spear where you're hitting all of them at once.
Mhm.
That
Yes.
style, the horde style of hack and slash is kind of that.
Risk of Rain.
Yeah,
It's
the risk
incredibly
of rain.
satisfying though.
It is
Like to
satisfying,
just
I will
take
say
down
that.
a horde.
I will say that. But that is not the style of hack and slash I am
Yeah.
referring to. So,
Yeah.
okay, Skylar. Now Skylar's gonna be like, I really like the Souls-like combat.
Well, I do actually.
And
Because
I think your opinion is stupid.
Stupid.
okay, I will say I've never really played a hack and slash, but the reason for that is because I don't really see the appeal.
Yeah.
Like I think for like 10 minutes it would be cool to just like feel super powerful and to be able to like do all these crazy attacks and take down a horde, but it's like after that it's going to get so boring. Like there's no skill expression. Like
Yeah.
from my understanding, obviously I've never played it, but that's why
Yeah,
I'm
the
Nothing
skill-
is a skill.
the skill expression is very different from that of Dark Souls and Elden Ring and things.
yeah, which
It's
is
button mashing. Are
why
you fast at button mashing?
my answer for favorite combat style / mechanics is Sekiro.
Okay.
Ooh, Shadows Die Twice.
Some people call it a Souls like, some people don't. Whatever you want to call it. I consider it a Souls game personally, but that doesn't matter because the combat's very different. But Sekiro by far has the best combat out of any game I've played in my life ever, which is a lot. Like it is entirely like parrying and deflecting, so Aiden would
Mhm.
hate it.
Yeah, it's
But it's so cool because it just feels like a dance. Like
yeah,
it's
that is
satisfying-
the one thing I will say about Souls-like games and combat like that is it is very much a read, know what the opponent is gonna do, and go for the best move for like it does. It is more dance-like. I will give you that.
Yeah, and like Sekiro specifically appeals to like rhythm. Like if you like stuff like Guitar
Mm.
Hero, like Sekiro is like low-key just a rhythm game. Because all you have to do is know the rhythm of the enemy's attacks, deflect at the right time, and then you're gonna break their posture and get the kill blow. And it just like
That's cool.
I played Sekiro like 4 times or something. Like my first playthrough, it didn't click in my head that like that's how combat worked. I was trying to play it like a Souls game, like a
Mhm.
traditional Souls game, where you just like dodge mostly. So I was just mostly just trying to dodge and didn't really care much about deflecting or parrying. Because in Souls games, I rarely use
Yeah.
a shield. Like I think I used a shield like my
Yeah.
first playthrough of Dark Souls
You
1.
don't use
I
a
never
shield
did it after
in
that.
Souls games.
Like you can if you're into that, but I just never
Yeah,
like
they're typically pretty useless though.
I never
If you're
parried.
into that.
If you're in
No, but like it's a
Parry.
strategy. It's just
Yeah,
that
yeah.
like especially in like Dark
Not a
Souls
good
1,
one.
like parry timings are kind of
Not a
weird.
good one.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
but like once it finally clicked in my head that like, oh, I'm supposed to be parrying, then the
Mhm.
game just became like 10 times better like for me. Because like I said, it's so satisfying to like know the enemy's attacks, be able to counter them perfectly, and then just
Yeah.
own them. And it's like it's his turn to
Mhm.
attack, and I have to deflect, and then it's my turn to attack, and then I find it very satisfying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and in a larger sense, I also just enjoy Souls
Yeah.
games for that reason. Like, and also this also kind of applies to Monster Hunter, but just like games where
Yeah,
you can
Monster
like
Hunter, yeah.
learn enemy tendencies and then be able to like
Mhm.
counter them with your own stuff. Like less so in Monster Hunter. I mean, you can like if
You
you've ever
can,
seen like Team Darkside videos where they just like perfectly dodge every single attack and just like kill them in unison with like 4 people. Those are pretty cool. But yeah, I enjoy the challenge of like learning an enemy's attacks and tendencies and being able to like improve and get better until I can finally
Mhm.
like take it down.
Yeah, and because in the Nier Automata style, it's like you learn the enemy attacks so that you don't get hit by them, so that you can dodge
Yes.
and then go and wail at them some more. It's less learning the attack patterns so you know how to counter it, and learn the attack patterns so you don't fall over. Because
Yeah.
something that a lot of those games do, and I mean I've never played a Souls-like, so I'm not entirely familiar with how the enemy like attacks are visualized. But at least in Nier Automata, it's like when an enemy attack is coming, it will show you where that attack is going to go so that you can just like move out of the way. And it's less about like, oh, here's where the attack is going to be. Make sure you're in the right position to block and parry it. No, it's like, here's where the attack is. Move or you will die.
Yes.
But then it gives you openings where you go in and wail on the way. Like it is a hit or dodge. Like there are parrying and block mechanics, but I don't know how many people actually use those. I don't know, because it's just a lot more fun to just run away and then run back. I don't know. So yeah, Ben, do you have a second one?
I do have a second one. So there is a game that recently started playing. I think it was Court's brother that brought it up. He's like, "Hey, there's this fun VR game."
Oh.
So it is a mixed
Oh.
VR PC game called The Vigo.
Oh,
Where basically, one person plays as this big giant, and
What?
the person with the VR plays as a big giant. They pick up trees and they smash the ground to have like a Hulk style ground smash attack.
Holy! I'm looking at the gameplay on Steam.
And then the people on there, you can have up to 4 people on PC playing together to try and take down the giant. Where you are like trying, you have rockets that you get, and then you either try to just shoot those rockets at the giant, or you can hop onto the rocket and just kind of fly it around, like manually aim it, and just either like kamikaze run into the giant's head, or like let go at the last second and fall down. And so this game is a lot of fun because it's a very fun, just like kind of playing against your friends kind of deal. And then you just get to like playing as the giant is really just a great experience because you just get to throw trees at your friends and watch them just get sent across the
I'm
map.
like looking at this, I'm like, this is crazy. Wait, this kind of combat's kind of cool.
And the thing is too that the people playing on PC don't need to buy the game. The only person that needs to buy the game is the person on VR. And then the people on PC just they download a free version.
Yeah, I'm seeing the Knight's Pass.
Mhm.
That's
cool.
Wait, that's really cool.
I played like a much more tame version of that. That's like a squirrel-based game. It's like a squirrel's attacking a tree, where like the tree is in the VR headset trying to defend itself from the squirrels.
So the tree is the
How does the
Whomping
tree
Willow.
defend itself?
Like what?
You
So,
know,
like, drop
I played it
apples
with
on the
higher
tree?
Drop
memory, but-
apples. How does a tree? That's actually really cool. Huh.
Mhm.
Well, there we go.
So very fun. There's a bunch of like little mechanics too. Like if you're a giant, you can block with your hand. You can block a rocket, and it'll like charge up your hand, and you can do like a Iron Man style like laser attack to have like a long distance attack. It's really fun.
What is that?
That's cool. While we were talking, I actually thought of another one. So
there we go. All right, Lillian, let's hear it. Let's hear your second one.
Yeah, because I didn't think about VR games. Super Hot. I don't know if any of you played Super Hot.
Okay, yeah.
That is a very interesting combat mechanic. That one is so funny, but it's like
straight up bullet time mechanic.
Yeah, where like everything else like stays still as long as you stay still. But as soon as you go to try and attack, everything else around you moves towards you. I just find that a very interesting combat mechanic. Yeah.
Good old Super
I find it very fun. It's a lot more like, it is a little bit cerebral in a sense, in that you have to kind of plan out what you're doing and when you do it more. But
yeah,
it's also very fun.
Bullet time can be fun. I know Court is a bullet time enjoyer.
Who isn't a bullet time enjoyer? Come on.
That's true. That's true. Well, if it's executed poorly, I'm not a bullet time enjoyer. But bullet time is fun. My second one. So this is a thing in lots of JRPGs. Western RPGs don't tend to have this a whole ton. And this
is
like,
that what JRPG means? Actually, I don't know. JRPG just means Japanese RPG.
Japanese RPG. What did you think it meant?
I didn't. I just like, okay, they're adding a J on there for some reason. That's cool.
Janky RPG.
Janky RPG. So this is a mechanic that lots of JRPGs have had recently. Most of Western games don't have it a ton, but occasionally they will. In the real time, it primarily happens in more hack and slash, because in Souls-like it doesn't quite function as, it doesn't work the same because of the pace of the combat. But like the real time like skills and like squad commands that you're giving in the middle of combat. So the best instance of this that I've experienced that I really enjoy, so Sword Art Online Hollow Realization does this super well. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink also does it really well. It's a game I started playing a little bit. Nier Automata doesn't have this. This is not something that Nier does. But it's like, yeah, you've got your primary, like, light and heavy attacks that you're, like, wailing on the enemy. But then it's like, if you hold, like, right bumper and then press, like, A, B, or X, Y, and then activate a sword skill in the case of SAO, or in Relink, it's also a sword skill or maybe, like, a long-range attack. So you chain those in with your normal attacks, and then it, like, uses a skill gauge. So it's like you're thinking in mid-fight, like, you don't stop attacking, but then you're like, okay, I need to press the other button and then throw in a combo. But then if you hold like left bumper and use the D-pad, then you give your squad commands while you're also like wailing on the boss. You tell your teammates to like focus this enemy while you're doing this, or to like it like adds a whole lot of extra thinking. And so instead of like thinking of like, oh, how is this enemy attacking? How can I like parry it and stuff? In Souls, like in these like hack and slash RPGs, it's like, okay, what do I need my teammates to do? What skills do I need to all like in the moment? Because if you stop, if you run away, like your skills are useless. Like you have to be on the enemy for these skills to do anything. And so you've got like 3 or 4 fingers like at the same time pressing different buttons in order to like time things and chain skills together, so that if you if you do them at the right time, they do more damage. Because in SAO, there's like a window of opportunity at the very tail end of a skill where if you activate a next one at the right time, it then adds a multiplier to the damage up to like whatever your like skill chain cap is, which like I think the max is like 50, in which case your skill's doing like 400% damage. But like the window of opportunity is so small, so now not only are you looking at the enemy to make sure no weird attacks are coming, you're like watching for like the flicker that tells you when the skill can be it like adds like real-time strategy elements to like RPG combat, because you're like having to like add in these other skills that you've unlocked to chain to your normal attacks while also chaining to squad commands. Because like in first-person shooters or things like Dark Souls, like these kind of skills, it's like you're usually not actively in like super engaged like combat where you can like, okay, you can like back off and be like, okay, let me use this skill, let me tell my team to do this. No, in Hollow Realization at the very least, and in Grand Blue Fantasy, it's like, no, you are actively looking at the boss, like at his feet, wailing on him while telling your team to heal you or to start chaining their skills together so that you can pay attention. It adds this level of complexity where it makes your legitimately your actions per minute are quite high, because if you're not chaining these skills together, you're doing like no damage. And
they have a similar
crazy
game mode to that in the Naruto game that I remember playing, and it is more common in the JRPGs.
Like, you want to talk about a game that like maximizes the number of buttons that are on a controller. Like, it is like every button has its purpose in combat. Like Sword Art Online Hollow Realization like literally takes like a skill palette from like an MMO and turns it into, you can literally just use it on a controller. Like the number of skills that it maps to like 4 buttons is incredible. Like the way that some of these games come up with to allow you to use skills without having to like pull up like a palette and like use your thumbstick, be like, oh, let me navigate to this one. Like the way that Hollow Realization does it, where it's like, when you're normally attacking, your X and Y just do like light and heavy attacks, but then it's like, if you double tap forward on the left thumbstick and press X, it'll do 1 attack. If you like do a circle with the thumbstick and press X, it does another attack. And if you just hold forward with the thumbstick and press X, it does another attack. And if you're not holding the thumbstick and press X, it does another attack. So like they somehow make it with just one movement of your thumbstick, you can do like 4 skills with a single button. So they turn turn your otherwise what would be limited to like 4 attacks on your A, B, X, Y into like 12. So they like really maximize the expression that you can just throw out with your skills, and you can just remap them. It is a lot. Like, it's one of those where, like, if you don't play the game for a while and then come back to it, you just have to, like, relearn how to use this combat system, because it's crazy.
Yeah, I got the sense, I don't know if, I haven't actually played it, but when I watched Hiram play Jedi Fallen Order, I got the sense that there was some of that, like,
yeah, Jedi Fallen Order, what I know...
You had to,
yeah, I haven't played Jedi Fallen Order, but I think Jedi Fallen Orders is like a hybrid between a Souls-like and kind of a hack and slash. I think it's more on the Souls-like.
It's definitely more.
It is more on the Souls-like side, but it does have that mechanic where you have all these different force skills that you have to implement at the right times in the fights.
Now, what I do know is that a lot of some Souls-like games that have those kind of button combos, when you pull up the skill menu, it goes into a bullet time to give you like, oh, this is the...
and it's not a skill menu. From what I was watching,
yeah, usually
Hiram, it's buttons.
It's buttons, but usually, I don't know. Does Jedi Fallen Order go into a bullet time when you pull up those, or is it just button combos that you use in real time?
I think it's just button combos.
You just use it real time. You use it real time, but there is like a forced slow ability that kind of makes it bullet time. If you're fighting like a single enemy, you can like slow them down, kind of like plan your thing more. But it's definitely more like real time Souls.
Yeah, because
it's
the real time
just with force powers.
Because the real time skills, because that's the thing, is like a lot of these games that have those skill palettes, like there is no bullet time. You just have to do it. There's no like, oh, let me hold the left bumper to slow down time and pull up my skill palette, and I want to do this skill, and then time goes back to normal. No, it's like, no, you have to just know what button combo your skill is on with your thumbstick. Otherwise, you're not doing it.
Frequently being frustrated because he pressed the wrong button and he used the wrong skill, and
yeah, it's fun because it's like when you combine those two combat of the hack and slash quick with the like real-time squad commands and skills, and you put them together, you get Sword Art Online Hollow Realization, and that combat is so much fun. Those are my 2 favorite combat mechanics, and when they're together in a game, it's an awesome game. Skylar, do you have a second one?
Yeah, so I thought of like a bunch, like as we've been talking. I had a second one going in.
Second one.
I want to give just like 2 quick shout outs.
Okay.
Like, so number 1, as we're kind of talking about bullet time and also Souls games, there's a Souls-like game called Mortal Shell that has a really interesting mechanic. I think it's just called hardening, where it's like anytime, like at any moment while you're fighting or attacking, you can like harden yourself to like turn into like rock or something, and it kind of makes you like invulnerable to enemy attacks. So, and you can do it like mid swing too. So it's like if you know an enemy's about to like hit you with something big, but you're like in the middle of like an attack, you can just harden and like tank that attack and then like reset and go back into like.
That's cool. Yeah,
it was very unique.
Mechanics like that in games, because there's not every game has it, but there are some games like because Nier Automata has it's not a hardening ability, but it's an ability where it like allows you to tank an attack just completely. It like depending on like what your HP is at, you'll just completely just tank the attack and it won't like you'll just dodge it. It'll just miss you because you're like at full health because it like one shot you. And it's like ability mechanics like that in games where it like gives you like one ability to use as like your like mental reset ability, where it's like, oh crap, I can't dodge this ability. There's not, you just like, the game just goes, we got you, don't worry. And it allows you to just tank it for a second to just like okay, we're good.
Yeah, and then another quick shout out, the Arkham games I think have super satisfying combat where it's also kind of like parry based, where you have to like when you see someone attacking you have to like counter it, but also just like when you like build up that combo meter and you like your attacks become like smoother, you know, it also feels like kind of dancey a little bit. So shout out Arkham games. But the main one that I thought about coming into this, which it's hard to necessarily call it like a combat thing. But the Fire Emblem system of combat, I really, really like. And I don't know if any of you have played Fire Emblem games.
Nope, but I can look.
Well, it's like tough because like technically combat is like automated. Like you don't actually do anything other than like declare an attack on somebody, and then combat is like completely like like percentage and like RNG based. But the main thing I like compared to other RPGs that I've played, which is not many, I'm not a huge fan of RPGs, but like I have played like Persona 5, which is like 100 hours worth of an RPG. So, but Fire Emblem has this system where it's a weapon triangle. So generally speaking, there are sword weapons, lance weapons, and axe weapons. And there's like a rock, paper, scissors system of like which weapon is strong against which weapon. It doesn't matter necessarily the class of the unit or anything else like that. It's like if this character has a sword and you're fighting a character with an axe, you have an advantage. If this character has a lance and you're fighting a sword, you have an advantage. And I really like that. Like at least in Persona 5, there's also like weaknesses where like certain enemies are like weak to this or certain enemies are weak to this.
Yeah.
Like if you've never fought that enemy before, you're literally just like trying random elements until you find out what their weakness is. And it's super annoying, especially like certain times in Persona where you're fighting like a really tough enemy. I can waste like 5 turns using the wrong element. So like I appreciate like in Fire Emblem, I can go into a fight having a plan and knowing like what is probably going to work for me. Like if I see the boss has an axe, I'm going to use my best sword character against it and it's just going to work. And then on top of that, another part of Fire Emblem I like is that the more a character uses a certain type of weapon, their like proficiency.
I love proficiency. Weapon proficiency in games is so nice.
Yeah. So I love that as well. Which also kind of relates to like the class system, which isn't necessarily like a combat thing, but I do love Fire Emblems have this really cool mechanic where like your unit might be like an archer just like by default, but if you want, you can make them like a paladin. Yeah. Like you can like Fire Emblem has like insane replay value because you can like essentially choose what class you want your units to be. Like if you want your archer to like use swords and like be a sword master or whatever, you can do that. And like sometimes it's like actually good depending on what their stats are. Like sometimes it's cool to like reclass somebody into something else because they might have good stats for it. But I don't know what else to say. I just like I really like Fire Emblem's whole system, weapon proficiency, the weapon triangle.
Those are fun. Those are fun mechanics to have in games. Everyone shared 2. Now, I didn't tell you to come prepared with this. I'll give you a second to think while I give mine. I want everybody to come up with one combat mechanic that they absolutely hate in games. Just one. Like your least favorite combat mechanic that comes up that you just
Microtransactions.
Okay. My wallet. My wallet is my least favorite combat mechanic. I will give you all a second to think as I share mine, and if I have to stall for more time for you, I can share a second. I hate quick time events. I'm sorry, but when there's a quick time event in my combat, why? Why is it there?
Explain what quick time events is.
You're like fighting. You're like, oh, you're doing it. You're getting close to finishing it, and then it's like, quick, press B or you die.
Oh, yeah.
They
have that in the Naruto game, and every single time I lose.
I hate it. I hate the quick, like, I hate just quick time events in general. Like, just in general. I wish they didn't exist, but specifically in combat, because most of the time, if you miss the quick time event in combat, you're just dead. The fight's just over, and you've got to redo the whole fight because you missed one button that you, like, that was randomly chosen that you weren't ready for, because often it appears in, like, the cutscene part of the fight. I hate quick time events.
You're in the middle of the cutscene. You're just enjoying watching the boss get beat, and then it's like, press B, mash B.
I hate quick time events in my fights. Get them out of here. I don't want them. So that is my dishonorable mention. Get that out of my games, please. Has everyone else figured out one?
Yeah, I've got mine.
Ben, you have yours?
I'm thinking.
Lillian, do you have yours?
I will mention one that I find the most frustrating. I wouldn't say that I dislike this because...
That also works.
Okay.
Right.
I don't dislike this because I do find it interesting, but in D&D and other, like, you know, there's a lot of... The chance that your attack can just, like, miss.
I hate that so much.
It's so frustrating. It's like, yes, I have everything lined up, it's all gonna work, and then you roll the die, and it's just...
A 3.
Well,
and you just miss, and like you're like right next to the person, and
it's so
it's
funny.
Like, it doesn't make any sense in real life for you to miss, but
the
you
thing
just
is,
miss.
with stuff like that, like you have to have a good DM who will like describe it while saying like,
yeah,
oh, he parries it, like he parries it in a certain way.
Now,
so, like,
but see, the problem is that in D&D you can have that, but Knights of the Old Republic has that mechanic, and it just says miss. And the problem is, you can miss a freaking door. You can miss a door. It's like, oh, I don't have the lock picking skills, so let me just break it down with a lightsaber, and it just goes miss. You're like, what do you mean I missed the door? It's stationary.
Door. Yeah. No, and that is just
you,
so frustrating.
I'm with you on that. Just missing attacks when you're like, where's the skill in that? I just missed.
Like, I totally understand the reason behind the mechanic because it's luck-based, but it's so frustrating when it happens.
It's so dumb. Nope. Okay, yo, that's a good one. Skylar, what's yours?
Yeah, so mine is in Rainbow Six Siege. Every single gun, no matter what, is a one-shot headshot, and I hate it. It feels so bad. Like,
okay, headshot, idiot.
Like, especially coming from someone with like a Counter-Strike background,
yeah.
It's like there are weaker weapons and there are stronger weapons. Like only like the Deagle, the AK, and then like snipers should be able to like one-shot headshot you. But like in Siege, it's like someone can be just like spraying randomly with like an SMG, or they can like just pull out their pistol, hit you in the head, and you're just dead. And it feels so bad. Like, obviously, the game doesn't have, like, the same, like, economy system as Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to buy weaker versus stronger weapons. Every character just, like, has a loadout. But it's just, like, shouldn't your sidearm be weaker than your primary? Like,
well,
why
not
can
if your
someone
Halo
just, like,
combat evolved.
pull out their pistol and just, like, freaking lean and one-tap me? It feels terrible. I hate it.
I think
I like in Counter-Strike being able to, like, get dinked and still, like,
on
live.
a similar vein, like, going even past... like piggybacking off of yours, going past sieges, just in games in general, where it's like you're just fighting an enemy and you're like, all right, reading the attacks, and then suddenly just out of nowhere you just get one tapped. You're like, oh
yeah.
And it's like you don't see it coming, and so the only way you can dodge it is because you fought them and got whacked by it the first time and know it's coming. But that is honestly very frustrating, honestly, in any game where you just get just one tapped out of nowhere because you just like didn't realize that it was happening and you're just suddenly dead and you're just like, oh, I guess I'm dead
Just
now.
like game over.
Game over. Yeah,
What
whether
happened?
it's siege with whether it's siege with just one taps from any weapons, or it's like Final Fantasy where you're just smacked upside the face with like a backhand of a boss. You're like, what? Huh?
Or the frog enemies in Jedi Fallen Order. Oh my gosh.
Frogdo,
The
Frogdo.
freaking tongue move that one-shots you.
Yeah, the one shot
my
moves that you just like don't know that are coming, so you can't dodge them are quite
Yeah.
frustrating. All right, Ben,
Mhm.
hit us with the hit us with your
Okay,
irritating.
I have
He's got
two kind of. So
Okay.
first of all, Jax E. That's all I have to say.
Jax E.
Second of all,
Okay.
Riot has their like other like side games they're doing with other companies,
Yeah.
like other studios. One of them was Ruined King,
Mm-hmm.
which was an RPG, and it has probably one of the most convoluted combat systems I have ever seen in an RPG. Like there is such a weird kind of like turn system that happens based off of like how quick your moves were. Like if you did a fast
What?
move, then your turn comes up sooner,
Oh. Huh?
and then you get to go again. But the thing is, your fast move does lower damage. You have like a lane system because like Riot Game can't have something without lanes, and so you have the speed lane, the balance lane,
Mhm.
and the power lane, and it's kind of the same thing. It's like speed, high speed, low damage. Balance is balance, and then power is low speed, high damage. So like
Huh.
if you do a power, it will take longer for that actual like attack to go through,
Uh-huh.
but it does a lot more damage. And then there's other kinds of attacks. You have ultimates, you have mana, you have health, you have overcharge. Like there is making a cool and unique system,
And then there's that.
and then there is just putting so much. Like it eventually does become a little intuitive the longer you play, but the learning curve is so steep.
The barrier for
Because
entry
there's
is
so
quite
many.
high.
It's like too many mechanics at once.
And because then they also have like systems where like because it's like you have a little timeline at the bottom of your screen that shows whose turn goes when, and then
Interesting.
there is also just kind of like going with the timeline. There is little hazard zones for like there's like a poison zone where if someone's turn is happening inside the poison zone that is kind of just side scrolling across and like repeating, then that person takes poison damage, or that person is silenced, they can't do anything. And then so
Huh.
it's just like you have to like, oh, if I want to dodge the poison zone, I have to do a power attack so that way my character's next turn goes just beyond the poison zone in the timeline. It's just it's
That's interesting.
it's an overcomplicated mechanic in my opinion.
Fair.
Yeah.
enough. Yeah. No. That.
Yeah,
I could
that's
see
fair.
why. That's fair. That's fair. I could see that. I could see that. Well, there's our combat that we all love and hate. Lillian, I'm glad that you brought that up because that was my other one that I was gonna bring up to stall for time if needed. So I'm glad you mentioned that because that is quite infuriating. So there we have it. We have finished. We have finished it all. Before Skylar takes us out, there will not be an episode next week because of General Conference. We don't ever film on those weekends. Well, okay, there might be something, but it's not going to be a full episode. It may be me fulfilling assignment requirements. But there will not be, if there is an episode next Monday, it will not be a full episode. It may just be me doing quick news recaps, but it won't be a full episode. So do not expect a full episode. Don't expect anything. Something probably will be released, but it won't be an episode. With that, Skylar, take us out.
Yes. All right. Knights of the D-Pad is a publication of the Daily Universe. We'd like to give a special thanks to Alan Neves and Miles Romney for everything they did and do to help support us and continue to do for this podcast. Also, if you'd like to reach out to us with feedback, ideas for topics, or just to say hello, you can shoot us an email at knightsofthedpadpodcast@gmail.com. With that, let's sign off. My name is Skylar.
I'm Aiden.
I'm Lillian.
And I'm Ben.
And we are the Knights of the D-Pad. We'll see you next time.